Hey, good evening. It's Sean and Tara, and we are here for another edition of Harris Family TV. And we're going to talk about a good subject tonight. We got a good structure, and our number one thing, guys, is we want to bring great content to you, something that's going to be useful, helpful, and resourceful. So what we're going to talk about today, honey, is budgeting.
Cool. We had an eventful week. We've been, the kids have been out of school, not even a week yet, but it feels like they've been out for like a
3
month. We've done something every day that they've been out of school, so I'm tired today. How are you feeling, babe?
I'm full of energy.
I bet you are, because I've been doing all the work today.
But let's say what they did. They went to the movies. Like the first day out of school, I believe, and we saw
Aladdin.
That's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I liked it.
I really enjoyed that. And then Saturday, the kids had an event. We did an event with Demaryius Thomas with the New England Patriots. Hey, Jan, what's going on, buddy? Hey, Ronald. And so they did an event there. Caden had, he was one of the speakers, actually, and he did great in sales that day. And I guess I'll go ahead and kind of share some numbers with everybody. For most of you guys know, Caden is 8 years old. He's the CEO of Daddy Did You Know. And he had an event where he made, we calculated right at $1,500 in one day. He had a pre-order purchase about 2 months before the event. Then he made another order at the event plus what he already sold. So he made about $1,500 that day. Kennedy made some great sales. She made just over $300 that day selling her products, her dolls, and books as well. And what do we do? Oh, and that was hosted by Jay Morrison, Jay and Ernestine Morrison. Mm-hmm. And a lot of you guys know Ernestine Morrison. She's an actress. She was in Steve Harvey's movie, the Think Like a Woman, Act Like a Man, or Act Like a Man. You know the movie. But
the power in that too was in having a family unit, and we're able to, make money together. Like this event, they asked for Caden originally, but because Kennedy's his sister, we brought her on too to sell her products. And the same thing happened a few months ago where there was a sorority and they wanted Kennedy to come. Caden's her brother, so guess what? Caden's gonna be at the table too. Yeah. So we maximized every opportunity to have them both involved in the whole family.
And people bought my products.
Yes, your product.
I knew it.
Yeah, you saw products too Saturday.
Books as well, and I'm a 26-time author. And one of the cool things too about that particular event, it was an event that gave back to the community. So Demaryius Thomas with the New England Patriots talked about. They gave away free haircuts, free hair braiding, face paint, just a whole bunch of different things. Our buddies, the Lemonade Brothers, were there. School supplies, backpacks.
A free financial literacy lesson.
Jay Morrison taught finances. He talked about what a CEO was. He talked about basic investments. He
taught the kids the difference between assets and liabilities. And it's amazing how much they retained just from that one session.
Yeah. And he actually gave away cash. He gave away $1,000 divided amongst all the kids and everything. So that was pretty cool. Caden's flashcards were in every single backpack. There were over 100 backpacks given out for that event. And what else happened that weekend? What else we did? So hey, sunshine. Well, I don't have my glasses on. Let me see. I want to see. Got it. Hit me up on my inbox, sunshine. What else did we do? Oh, we took
your brother's birthday.
Yeah, my brother had his 50th birthday party. My older little brother, that's what I like to call him. But we had a great time with family and friends and enjoyed that. And then Caden and Kennedy's friend Emmanuel, he had a birthday party yesterday. Like you guys saw the kids doing the jump, the iFly. That was pretty cool. If you guys look at the video, go back and look at Caden. Y'all know Caden barely weighs like 3 pounds. Man, he stepped into that machine and the wind just took him all over the place. His legs were dangling. It was hilarious. But the kids had a lot of fun doing that. But let's get into the meat of what we're going to talk about tonight, which is budgeting. A lot of times people ask us, well, Sean and Tara, how do you guys budget? Just a regular household, budget your corporations, budget the kids' businesses, etc. And I guess the first thing you have to look at and understand is the difference between assets and liability. The difference between asset and liability is very simple. Asset, put money in your pocket. Liability, take money out of your pocket. So some examples of assets will be income producing assets such as real estate holdings, different investments, commodities. You know, some people invest in art, jewels.
A business can be an
oh,
asset.
absolutely. Your business is definitely an asset. IP, intellectual property. Intellectual property be stuff like books, the written content, audio contents, things of that nature. What are some liabilities? Cars. Purses.
Yeah, expensive
clothes,
items that you don't.
Pretty much stuff that just doesn't put money back in your pocket. And you know, I guess a house is up for debate. A lot of people, some say it is an asset, some say it's a liability. But again, the definition is, does it bring money in your pocket? So if you have a multifamily unit or a duplex or a single family home, that will be considered an asset if it's producing income. Hey, Angela. Hey, Terry. So what that does, it becomes an asset. But if it's just your regular house and it is not creating income for you, then it is on a spreadsheet, according to the bank, it would be considered a liability. So, how you going to start off on the budgeting? Want to talk about household budgeting first?
We can talk about the kids, because I have something I want to say.
Hey, Charles.
Well, with the kids' businesses, they, when you start a business, you know, you start off with mostly expenses, and then you get into where you have your profit. Mm-hmm. And so with our kids, you know, we funded their businesses in the beginning, mm-hmm. and now they can run themselves. They can buy their own expenses when they need bags, when they need more products, and books. And in the beginning, Sean was like, okay, I got this. But now that he sees how much their businesses are making, after he orders their books, he's like, where's my money?
That's right.
He wants his money from their business. But that's the whole point when starting a business is it should be able to run itself without any extra money. And they're there, so
yeah.
I wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's true. As soon as the companies start having equity and they can, like you said, fund it themselves, man. Like Kaden the other day, we talked about that when he decided he wanted hot wings for dinner, so he bought for the whole family out of his own money. So let's talk about household budget.
Okay.
What's some of the key things that you feel is important as far as a budget? You know, how do you set a budget? First, and say, well, I don't have a lot of money. You know, kind of like paycheck to paycheck. You have any insight on that you want to share?
One of the things I know a lot of people do when it comes to kids or buying clothes, they buy their clothes off season. You know, at the end of the summer, they're buying their clothes for next summer. Or at the end of the winter, they're buying those clothes for next winter. So that's a good way when you're budgeting how to buy clothes and shoes, because boots, you know, for winter, they're not going to be on sale in the summer. But if you get them at the end of winter, you're good for next winter.
And get them a size up, of course.
Yes.
I do that with sunglasses. I like sunglasses. So if it's a pair that I really know I like, you know, we all know that they can fall off, get crushed, sat on, or whatever. I always make sure I get 2 or 3 if it's a pair that I really like, and just store them.
And one thing we had to really talk about when we were budgeting for the home were groceries. Because, you know, sometimes you're like, well, this shouldn't cost that much or it shouldn't. But we were like, look, we have to see what's going to give us the great value from our food and make sure that we're not eating bad food and then we end up spending that money in medical bills.
Yeah, that's real important. Super important. Let's talk about auto budget. I think oftentimes, you know, we can get in positions, and I like my particular vehicles and stuff, but a lot of times we get stuck on particular vehicles based on the brand, the image that it may give, or what have you. But my litmus test is always, can I afford it if something goes wrong? You know, last thing you want to see is someone who has a nice vehicle, but if something as simple as the tail light is busted, they'll drive around for like 3 months without getting that tail light busted. You know, there's a celebrity that goes to the gym that Tara and I go to, and all you guys know who this person is. He had a Mercedes, and this thing had a busted tail light for, I swear, like 6 months. And I was like, man, can you afford the car note versus can you afford the car? So when it comes to budgeting, you know, again, is that vehicle going to create income for you? Like with some of our stuff, like the construction company, some of our vehicles and the cleaning company, we have vehicles that are dedicated for those particular companies. So those vehicles create income. So they're an asset. And, you know, we just keep them running successfully, keep them maintained. I'm not trying to put bells and whistles on it. It just need to do the job to create the income for the corporation. So with that, you want to budget money in the event if something happens. I remember when I was in the military, my biggest goal, hey Tashanta, my biggest goal when I was in the military was to be able to have enough money to pay for a transmission.
Yeah.
And I think even to this day, you can get a transmission for under $2,000, $2,500, just kind of depending on where you live at in the country. But I always said, if I at least got transmission money, I'd be okay when it comes to my automobile. And typically transmissions most of the time cost more than an engine. So if I can handle that, if something happens to the engine, of course I can get an engine replaced. And that's the thought process too. And you know me, I will put an engine or a transmission in a car and keep it moving rather than have a car note. I don't even know the last time I had a car note. It's probably been at least 12, 13, 14 years since I had a car note. So my mind frame with that is, if I had to pay to get a new engine or a new transmission, that's like what, three months of a car note.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather do that than to actually incur a car note.
So you talked about having enough money saved to be able to afford a transmission.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of people think that, okay, saving is good, which it is. So I want you to talk about saving versus investing.
Save versus investing. We all heard the same thing growing up. Save your money, put it in the bank account. We still got some of us and our grandparents and parents, they still keep the money under the mattress or buried in the backyard. But the goal is, we don't save money to save money. You save money to invest money. Because money in and of itself has no value if it's just sitting there. You have to put it to work. So we like to look at money as being employees. And you want to deploy your capital so that it can go out and make a return on this investment. So, and a lot of times you guys will hear that referred to as ROI, return on investment. So I look at money in two ways. You have Frisbee money and you have boomerang money. Again, just like a Frisbee, when you throw it out, at a certain point the Frisbee falls to the ground and it just sits there. So that money, that's not doing anything for me. But a boomerang, ideally, is supposed to come back to you. So that's the way I look at my money. I like to always make my money be boomerang money so that it will return to me with a return on investment greater than the investment, ideally. So that's how I look at that.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people don't realize we budget everything in our lives, like even with the medical, because we both have businesses, we're self-employed, so we don't have a job, that's going to pay for our medical. So one of the things we do have access to is our veterans benefits from when we both served in the military. And that's it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much better than it used to be. I know a lot of people used to complain, but
it's way better. And that's one key thing too that Tara was talking about. When it comes to insurances, when Tara just said, you look at like the grocery budget, for example, you got to look at the long-term effects when it comes to health. You may eat cheaper quality food now, but you will pay on the back end when it comes to medical. Well, the same thing takes place with insurance. I think you have to take a look at if you had an employee structured insurance policy for your health insurance, you got to look at the end of the year what you're paying into that insurance program versus your copays that you actually used, or ER services, things like that. So in essence, if you have a one-time visit, let's say for example you have to get stitches or whatever, strep throat, you have to get antibiotics, whatever, that one-time visit throughout the whole year, or 2 visits a year, may only come up to maybe $300, but you may have sunk $1,200 to $1,500 into your job's insurance policy. So that's something, again, you just got to know your numbers and know what works best for your dynamics.
Mm-hmm. You wanted to talk about the urgent care and everything too, right?
Yeah, definitely keep money in store for that. Definitely having boys, you will at some point go to urgent care.
Yes, I hate long ER visits. So.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's important to Tara and I is time. You have to understand the difference and the value between time and money. You can lose $20, you can remanufacture $20. You can earn that again, but you can't get back today. It's spent. So, hey Karachi. So with that, you want to put yourself in a position where your time is more valuable than money. So, like Tara said, instead of sitting in a ER, and one of the ERs close by, they got the little sign that says you have like a 18-minute wait or something like that on the way there. But our time is more valuable. So if it's not a major emergency, something simple like a strep throat or something, stitches or something like that, we would more than likely go to an urgent care facility, which we can be expedited through the process, and I'd rather pay out the money because my time is more valuable than sitting in an ER. And I hate ERs for myself or just to be there for anybody else, because I just think I just hate it. So with that, budget for that. You know, if you have small kids, boys in particular, have an account established just for that in the event of an unlikely but likely incident or an emergency that you need to tend to.
Yes, Kaden has asthma, so there's no telling when we're there, when we have to be there.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's real important. So we covered household budget. Well, did we cover enough on household budget? Because that we can talk a lot on household budget. I think with a household budget too, you know, a lot of things come into play with that is clothing budgets. Of course, you said groceries, utilities. You know, just certain things. You just got to put everything on paper, you know, because when we were in the military, I always say if it's not written, it doesn't exist. So if you are just going off the top of your head with the budget, it can be a challenge having an accurate budget or an effective budget, because we're just kind of going from week to week or paycheck to paycheck or something like that. So you got to actually calculate and put that down.
And if you're buying a house, like I remember we sat down with a lady, remember? She's a millionaire. She said, you guys are going to make a lot of money. She said, don't go out and buy a big, huge house. She said, I'm telling you this from experience. She said, upgrade a little bit. She said, and hold on to your money, invest your money. I know there's a lot of, I've had friends, they go out and they get the top of their max out that they can get for their homes. But then when we want them to come travel with us and they want to come, they can't because they don't have the extra money because they want to got the big house. So give yourself some room.
We need to talk about that too on another show. We're going to talk about credit and understanding credit ratios, because you know a lot of times people may get a credit card with maybe a $10,000 cap limit on it, and they go out and spend $10,000, and the next thing they do is they want to increase the card limit to $12,000, $15,000, and it's like, well, man, they gave me a higher amount, so I'm going to go ahead and spend the money. But what you have to realize, the way credit works is that once you go over that 30% threshold, your credit actually starts going backwards, and then you're looked at as someone who maxes out the credit, and it actually destroys and damages your credit rating. So we're going to talk about that in another show, because that's like super important. That ties in with budgeting. It ties in with purchasing a house, car, running a business, getting business credit, things like that. So we're going to stick a pin in that one. We're coming back to that one. That's a good one. Let's talk about, what else you want to talk about? Budgeting time. You got to budget your time too. And when I say budget your time, we have to look at time stealers. You know, Tara will tell you, if you attempt to call me on the phone, chances are you're not going to get through. I just don't do telephones.
I better get through.
I like to say, yeah, I'll answer first. But I'm a texter, because if I lose control of my time by adhering to any phone call that come in, you now own my time and control my time. But you know, Tara will tell you, especially when I have a focused day, I will actually take a note card and I would write everything I have to do for that day. Then I go back and I write a number next to each item as far as priority. So the number one thing I must do, I put a number one next to it. Number two, next thing, etc. Then I actually go back and I write a time for that event. So let's say, for example, tomorrow, my number one priority is going to the bank. Second priority is I need to go to the post office. Third priority is I need to go visit with a vendor. So if those are the levels of importance, I will also tell that the bank opens at 9, so I'll be in the bank at 9 o'clock and I'll be out by 9:07, based on what I know I have to do at the bank tomorrow. The post office is across the street, so I should be at the post office no later than 9:09, in and out by 9:13. So as you guys kind of see how I'm going, that way I budget my time so precisely that I've done an entire day and done before 11 o'clock in the morning. And that's another talk we can do too, what we call mini days. You know, most people think a day consists of 24 hours, but in actuality, you can accomplish everything you need to do in a whole workable day by noon time. So from 6 a.m. to 12 noon can be considered a day. From 12 noon to 6 p.m., that can be considered a second day, still compressed into that first day. And then from 6 o'clock to midnight or whatever, it's just whatever time you need to just do whatever it is you need to do. Whether it's spending family time, catching up on stuff, or even preparing for the next day, so you can effectively put 3 workable days within an 18-hour time period and still have time to sleep. So again, you got to see, we all have the same amount of time. It's how you use your time effectively.
You want to talk about travel budget too, right?
Yeah.
So we're traveling next week, but we've had this trip planned since last year. So that's one of the ways that we do budget. Like if you know, if you're not ready to pay for everything all up front, one of the things I always do, I get our plane tickets first. That's like my first thing. I said, we can get there. I know we'll find somewhere to stay, but we're going to get our plane tickets first because typically plane tickets go up the closer you get to that date, especially a month or 6 weeks before.
Yeah. So
we always plan our trips, what do you say, maybe 6 to 9 months out?
Yeah, at least. So it's like having a baby, huh?
We're going to birth a trip.
So we're in labor now because we are exactly 1 week out. This is going to be a good trip. Stay tuned to see about that one. But I think when it comes to budgeting for the trip too, you know, we know in advance how many trips we're going to take. Usually about this time of the year, we usually take a family trip. Then about a month later, we had our anniversary, so we tend to take a trip without the kids. Yeah. And but we also do a lot of trips in between. And even if it's a quick getaway, just to run up to the mountains, go to a cabin, run down to Florida, just anything like we got a California trip coming up in August that is technically a business trip. The kids are being honored for their businesses out in California, but it just happens to be the same weekend as Caden's birthday, so we'll really turn that into a birthday weekend for Caden. This will be his first time in California. You went for the first time in California last year. Kennedy has been once, and I used to live out there.
So how do you decide what you're going to spend on a trip, or what's too much? How do you budget in, like, what you're going to eat when you're there? I know one of the things we like to do is all-inclusive if they're available. So how do you budget, like, your travel once you get there, or tours, or your food?
Well, I think the first time that people travel when they're still real new to traveling, a lot of times they want to spend a lot of money on souvenirs. I did that my first time going to the Caribbean. I remember I came back with suitcases full of woodwork from Jamaica. And that was before they did the weight limit to what it is now. So I brought like a ton of stuff back, useless. But, you know, just figure out what it is that you want to get when you get there. Food, like you said, we usually do all-inclusive. So that's usually not an issue. But we still budget when we are outside of that particular resort, or we're going to be out and about.
I know something people. You do.
What's that?
You always take a certain amount of cash. You don't really use your card, so it's like this cash is what you have, what we have when we here.
That's it.
And so you're forced to budget that.
Yeah, and that makes for just easier transactions, like you said. There are. I talked to the bank today, as a matter of fact. You know, they had different percentages for ATM transfers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you just got a pocket full of money, you know, this is it. And ideally, you don't want to use your card when you're over there if you don't have to. So I think that's what we do. But we look at our excursions too. We look at things that we know we want to do. Like this particular trip, we know we're going snorkeling. Yes, I'm getting in the water again, guys. So we already have an idea of what we're going to budget for our excursions. What's going to be parasailing, the banana boats, snorkeling, things like that. So we have that money allotted. We have money allotted for what we're going to do in souvenirs for people that we're going to bring stuff back, which is usually nothing.
And food, because even though we like all-inclusives, this does not have all-inclusive.
Yeah. So we're going to fork that money out on that one. So, and I think too, like you said, with budgeting the trip, also know seasons when to buy. If we know we're going to go, buy it in off season. Or for people who like to cruise, for an example, I'd always recommend travel during hurricane season. Now, when you look at it, you may say, well, Sean, why would someone want to do that? Well, the cost is much lower. And as I said in the previous show, cruise lines are not going to put their ships in harm's way. So if they forecast that a hurricane is coming, they're just going to change destinations, and you're still going to have an incredible and amazing trip. So that way, I definitely recommend doing that. Airfare tickets are usually good too. And here's another little trick too that we do. You have to kind of do your research and do your own algorithms. But typically Tuesday nights after midnight, you tend to get some decent pricing on airfare. But that can kind of go any kind of way sometimes. So
Sometimes
you just got to
Sundays.
study it. You just got to study it. And what we do is we travel on Thursdays and Tuesdays if you can, as opposed to Fridays and Saturdays where your rate's going to be much higher. And also, most of the airlines got a calculator where you can see what the price will be if you leave that subsequent day, which could be substantial difference in airfare. Yep. Anything else on budgeting with that?
Nope.
Cool.
Hi, Christine.
Yep. Hey there, everybody. Hey, Debbie. One thing I also want to talk about too is what's called, and I think this is going to really be like a home run for somebody tonight if you listen to it and apply it, and it's called the E to E ratio. What we mean when we say the E to E ratio is your education to entertainment ratio. And one of the key things that we always stay mindful of is that we want to put more money into our education for self-improvement, self-development for ourselves than we do in entertainment. So this is like paramount when it comes to budgeting. And ideally what you want to do to put yourself in a good position is to your education aspect should be 3 times the amount of the entertainment, if that makes sense. So a lot of times you guys see us travel, we go to different places of the world, but whatever that particular budget is for our travel, our self-improvement budget is at least triple that amount. You know, I just did some calculations yesterday. I was talking to a CPA. I, in 2018, spent or invested $19,701.31 into my self-development. That consisted of either going to conferences, books, courses, different things like that that helped improve us and improved our corporations. So that's always something to really focus on when you're actually putting your budget together. I think that's like the biggest thing. So you got to know what your particular E to E ratio is. Anything on that, Lovey?
No, sir.
Yeah. And one thing too, you talked about savings. I just want to kind of cover this one little thing and let's get out of here. This is one of my best-selling books. I'm on book number 26 now. It's called Redefining Wealth. Some things, the formulas for creating wealth. And I think a lot of times people think it's like if you take 2 eggs, flour, a cup of milk, stick of butter, mix it in a pot or in a bowl, throw it in the oven, in 25 minutes we should have what?
Cake.
A cake. Now, ovens vary, so temperatures vary, so people's successes will vary as well. But here's one thing I want to talk about. It's one of the things I have in my book here about wealth creation. There's a formula to it. You know, if you're going to make cake, like you guys have secret recipes for pies or just different cuisines that you guys make. Well, there's also a formula and a recipe for success. And I want to kind of cover some of those. It's in this book. But the first thing you want to do is create income. And in this cycle, and I've diagrammed a complete cycle here, and it talks about the first thing you do is to create an income. Then your first goal is to increase that income. After you increase the income, you want to start saving the money. But we just talked about you don't want to save just to save. You want to save it to invest. So that would be the next area. What's going on, Reggie? And so now that you're investing, that gives you more money, more capital to operate from. So what that is, now you want to start getting to a point where you can start creating multiple flows of income. So, you know, you don't want to just have one way of making income. I remember when I was a deputy sheriff, you know, my trigger finger, that was my main way of making income. If something happened to my physical ability to perform, I couldn't make money any longer. So I had to figure out how can I make income that didn't require my physical effort or for me to even be there. So I got good at using other people's human capital. So once you start getting the different flows, then you want to start to increase those different flows of income. So it's like a water spigot. You start off with a drip, then you get a little constant flow, then you want to be able to have a gushing flow, then you're going to save again, invest again, then from that point now you want to increase your different ways of creating income. So it's just one cycle. So the biggest thing is just figure out how to create a high income skill. We talk about high income skill is a skill set where you typically can make at least $10,000 a month or $120,000 a year with minimal effort, or have it system driven. You want to be able to have it to where you're going to create that income whether you're there or not. So this is a book that I have now attached the link onto this post. It's called Redefining Wealth. And it's an incredible book. They have a lot of fundamentals. Some of the things you'll learn in this book is the 3 changes that you need in order to acquire wealth. And these are the 3 changes that I personally can vouch for. The 3 types of education, 3 types of income, the 3 money skills. And, you know, once you master those things, I think that's going to be a great way to build strong budgets. Yep. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us any questions, whether it pertains to budget or just anything else. Even after this post on the replay, for any of you guys that have any questions, don't hesitate to chime in. You got anything to love as we close out?
Nope, we're gonna go in here and get some of this leftover barbecue.
Yeah, I threw that on the grill.
Yeah. It's still one fly that's just in here aggravating everybody.
Yeah, and we are scheduled for broadcasting the show again next Wednesday. However, we may have a logistical change, so we may do the show Thursday next week. But just stay up to date. We'll definitely let you know that. It's depending on our Wi-Fi at the undisclosed location where we're going to be this time next week. So
it depends on our coordinates, babe.
Okay, coordinates. So
Reggie said you need another plate.
Oh yeah, man! Me and Reggie threw down on the grill this weekend. Now I tell you, if we ever have a cookout and you see me and Reggie, my buddy Reggie, on the grill, you're in store for a lot of fun. Oh, we had a mean game of Uno.
Yes.
Oh man, it got ugly. Friendships were almost lost on that one. You know, they got new rules to Uno now. For all you Uno players, they got a new card where you can swap hands. So you can be down to your last card and you can swap out with somebody who got like 8 cards in the hand. So needless to say, that thing will end friendships. But so yeah, guys, anything? Hey, Tamara, any questions you guys have or any topic matter that you guys want to have us discuss? Feel free to put that in the comments or inboxes, what have you.
And you're even going to be talking about budgeting at the Raising the Mogul conference.
Yes, we have a conference coming up in June 27th through the 30th here in Atlanta, where we're going to have some of the top heavy hitters when it comes to kidpreneur, parent managers. We're going to be talking about everything from marketing, budgeting, branding, all the things you need to know about business. Because I think that so many times people get started in business and they think it's just so glamorous, or they don't understand the intricate details of a business, things that are important, things that are going to keep a business running. Because, you know, I had a buddy, he cooks very well. He's an extremely great cook. And he can cook for armies. But the only problem is he can't get an army to come to a restaurant. So, you know, you could be good on one aspect of business, but, you know, it's different fundamentals to business. What's going on, Harold? And so you want to be able to culminate all the information from different aspects. So, like I said, at the Raising the Mogul conference, and we'll attach a link to this post as well. But it's going to be June the 27th through the 30th. And we are going to have...
You got it right.
Oh, I got it. I got it. Look, I tell Terry, my brain is like Microsoft operating system. I usually have 28 windows open at any given time. And she's like, can you close some of those windows? I was like, hey, that's not the way I operate. So, but I got that date perfect. But it's going to be power packed. We're going to teach kids how to pitch. You know, a lot of people were like, man, we hear about all these kids having pitch competitions. So you guys are going to learn about pitching, like I said, marketing, branding, just so many different things. So I'm excited. I can't wait for the things that we're going to learn to be able to propel not only the kids' businesses, but our businesses. So that's going to be a great, great event. So I am hungry. I'm ready to eat. We love you guys. Any questions that you guys have, feel free to give us a shout out. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week from some undisclosed coordinates on the planet. So take care. We'll see you guys later.